Practical skills, biological drawing. So we are going to focus on how to draw organisms for the ACE exam. The main idea here is that we're going to use biological drawings to help document observations and convey anatomical features about organisms being studied. Of course, there's some specific targeted learning goals, but we're going to go over them all in detail as we go. So here's an introduction. First of all, scientists should be able to make biological drawings of either live specimens or from photographs. This has been used for hundreds of years to convey information. Now, in terms of what you're going to need to do, you do not have to be a great artist, okay? The aim here is to produce clear outline of the main biological features. So what you need is very simple. You need a sharp, hard, minimum HB pencil, which is pretty standard. You have to have it on the test anyway. You need an eraser, which you have on your pencil usually, but you could have a secondary eraser. And of course, having access to a pencil sharpener is decent, but we usually have them around. A ruler is key. You need to have a ruler and of course plain white paper, which you'll be supplied with either in the actual body of the test itself or, when we do exercises and practices. All right, so let's dig into this because there's quite a few little tiny details to be considered. First of all, when you are given a prompt to do a biological drawing, and we're going to do one, spoiler alert, for a bull shark. That's the picture there. Now, the first thing you want to do is look at the blank space that you are given to work with. Now, from that blank space, an area you're going to start working. You're going to write the title of the specimen at the top of your workspace, and of course you can write that in ink. However, the drawing itself should be in pencil only, and you're going to use pencil to make an outline of the specimen. Now, I'm going to go through this step by step as we go, but I'm going to read through these first, and then we're going to walk through them together. So first, the drawing should be half the size of the space provided, so you have room to label, but it shouldn't be smaller than that. So just kind of you have to calibrate yourself when you're about to go in and do one of these drawings. Make room for those labels at each side of the drawing. No shading is permitted whatsoever. So all my artsy people out there, including myself, no shading whatsoever. We want smooth, continuous, bold lines to show features, and that's really all this is about. Now, if you make an error, you can use your eraser for corrections because you are using a pencil for the drawing. Now, ensure the scale of the image is appropriate. So, for example, the parts of the organism should be proportional to each other. For example, I shouldn't draw this bull shark and have the dorsal fin the size of half the animal. It's only a size of a smaller portion of the animal. So those are things. Another example is sure accuracy. For example, if a fish has 3 spines, you should draw 3 spines. In this case, the shark has 2 dorsal fins. I should draw 2 dorsal fins. Those are things you need to pay attention to. Now let's go ahead and get started. Now, there is no one set method for doing these drawings. Everybody's going to have to find their own way. I'm going to show you a very basic breakdown way to look at it. Now, I looked at this bull shark picture and I saw a straight line down the middle of it. And that's how I'm going to lay out my parts. So I went ahead and started by drawing a straight line with my pencil along the page in the area to about the size I want the shark to be. Now from there, I started to draw some guide marks. I kind of decided about where my dorsal fin was going to be. I decided the angle of my caudal fins, those back fins, and I sort of drew a line where my pectoral fin would be and a little bit of a nose. So now I have a rough outline of rough structure, if you will, to start drawing my outline. So now I just drew the outline based on what I saw. And if you notice, mine is not completely accurate in terms of I think mine's a little pudgy, whatever, but it doesn't matter. I can clearly see where the mouth is. I can clearly see the dorsal fin and the caudal fins, and I haven't finished yet, of course. So essentially, my dorsal fin is about where it should be. My caudal fin's about where it should be in proportion to things. They're about the same size, so we're good. So now I've drawn in the rest of the features. I have the eye, the gills, the pectoral fins, the second dorsal fin, the anal and the pelvic fin. So I pretty much have a decent enough line drawing to hang all of my labels on. And that, of course, is where you're really trying to get to. Let's take a minute and talk about labels. Now, labels should be printed clearly and in ink. Now, labels should be to the side of the image and the label lines should be horizontal. Now, label lines should be drawn in pencil with a ruler. So you are using a ruler and you are using a pencil. Now, that is different than the actual label itself. When you write out the actual label, pectoral fin, you're going to use pen. Label lines should touch the site being identified. So that line should go all the way to that site that's being identified. Now, in some instances, you could be asked to have annotated diagrams. That's where the labels should include an explanation for how that feature is adapted for that marine ecosystem. For example, maybe you have an operculum like a gill cover on a fish, and you write that it's essential for ventilation as it is a bony flap that covers and protects the gills. So sometimes you might need to write more than just a label, the name of that particular feature. You might actually have to write an annotation. So here is my finished labeled bull shark diagram, and I have labeled a bunch of things: the eye, mouth, gills, pectoral fins. But notice down on the bottom, I kind of did a mess up. I started to write anal fin, which is when it was the pelvic fin. And I wanted to show you this because the truth is you might make a mistake, and you can always cross a line, put a line through that mistake and write the correct one there. It's okay. These don't need to be perfect. My shark here is not perfect. It is not a great artist rendering, but it's enough to get the point across and make sure the labels are correct and you get all the marks you need to. All right, so here is a good example of a biological drawing. And so we're going to practice in class and get some more experience.